Whether you dream of being a flower farmer or you just want to grow flowers for your kitchen table, I'm Lisa Mason Ziegler, and I grew cut flowers commercially for nearly 25 years. Now, as an author and online course instructor, I hope to inspire the next generation of growers. I'm glad you're here. Let's jump in. So I'm here at my Hellebore patch, which has really become was and is a significant piece of my flower farm. And I thought I'd give you a little backstory and also what we're planning to do here in this garden. Hellebores were the very first garden plant I ever purchased. I was not a gardener. I lived in a shade garden house 25 years ago, and my first visit to a nursery revealed that Lenten roses, also known as hellebores, thrive in deep shade, and that's exactly what I had. So I innocently bought them. I think the thing that keeps most people from kind of indulging in Lenten roses is they're kind of pricey. And what people don't understand is that when you buy that half-gallon pot from the nursery, that's like a 2-year-old at least plant. So somebody's been watering and caring for that plant. So, but it is so worth it. And that's what I want to give you a little look about today. So I planted those three, I bought 3 plants. And so this is 2025. I probably bought those plants in 1995, maybe. And they were $12.95 a piece. So that was a kind of a pricey price, right? So I got 3 and planted them. And then when Steve and I got married, I transplanted those 3 plants up here to this garden. And those 3 plants are what populated pretty much everything you're going to see on this video today. I will mention also that these hellebores are the top earning cash crop on this farm when you compare it to inputs as to what I get. They absolutely require no maintenance. I haven't purchased any plants for many, many years. We just actually harvest them, and guess what they're perfect for? For us here in 8A on the east coast of the country is Mother's Day bouquet fillers. They're pretty dadgum perfect. So let's take a look. The stage of this area is, this whole garden is underneath a saucer magnolia that Steve's grandparents actually planted back in the 1960s. She's a beauty. When she's in bloom, she is so breathtaking, but at her feet is where my hellebores are. And so what we're planning to do now is there's a lot of my treasures that have been put in this garden, not plant treasures, stuff treasures over the years. And we're actually going to be pulling all of that stuff out for a relocation potentially, because, you know, frankly, it's gotten a little junky, y'all. So we are going to revamp the hard goods that are in this garden, and even potentially, dig up some hellebores and relocate them as well. So the view you're looking at right now is actually what we see from inside of our home. And there is typically a bird bath bubbler in this spot you're looking at. And that's what, bringing that back out is what stimulated us to take a look. So all of this rock that you're seeing here is going to be used in a different way here. And some of these, there's plants in here like this liriope, which just kind of planted itself years ago, and through our high production years, we just let it do what it did. So that'll be removed. And so we're just getting ready to do a real revamp of this area. Now, as a flower farmer, right now is the 2nd of April. You can see the hellebores are at their peak. They are at the perfect harvest stage. We would be cutting this bed clean of all of these stems. They command a high price from commercial customers because they last so long in the vase. And if you're doing a bouquet program, it is the perfect flower to beef up your spring bouquets. So let's talk about the variety that's growing in here. My original purchase was Hellebore orientalis, which is like, I don't know if it's called an heirloom, but it is an older variety. But what I love about it is it has these beautiful blooms that age out to white and green, which just means they're super useful, y'all. But here's the key: they reseed. That means that if you leave some of the stems in the garden, they will reseed. And I have carpets of little babies. And those little babies grow on to become just more plants. Having this steady supply of hellebores at all stages of life, 1 or 2 years old, which is what you're seeing now, and then those that are more mature. So we are going to be sharing later what this garden looks like. I will say that a hellebore patch is kind of like peonies. You want to plant these as soon as possible. If you are, first off, they become a great part of your landscape, right? So whether you continue flower farming or not, they're a great asset. Deer don't eat them. They grow at the foot of trees that suck the life out of everything else. And they're an amazing cash crop to actually beef up your flower farming program. So stay tuned. I am back here in my Hellebore shade garden after we've done a little revamping and removal. And so, I can't tell you how the view from my home has changed so much since I just moved a lot of the hard goods, the obstacles, the things that I've collected over the years have been relocated, and now my Hellebore garden is just so free and clear. So what I want to highlight for you this morning is something that we're really enjoying. We installed a new bird bath. And I have bird baths at multiple levels in this garden, and let's just take a look at some of those because there's lots of different residents here in my garden. So this first one, I feel really strongly about having ground level water. We have a lot of turtles in this garden and on my farm, and this is a place for them, as well as this we call it the bubbler, and I have had this probably for 30 years, and you just can't imagine how the sound of this really attracts a lot of birds. We see birds swimming. Literally the robins will get in here and push around. It is super sweet. This bird bath is located over here on the well, and it's almost always empty because the big birds splash in it so much. So that one has to be refreshed sometimes twice a day. So that's kind of tucked up against the building, which I think a lot of the birds feel very safe there. And then look at these two levels. So this one, the birds really love having something to land on. I think they feel like this is a little bit of cover. I see lots of songbirds on this one, chickadees and titmouse, and the finches they tend to drink from this one. But look at the newest installation that happened with this new revamp. Steve created this bird bath, which is, first off, incredibly viewable from inside of our family room, but it's also at a different level of any others. This concrete thing is a well lid turned upside down, and the pillar underneath actually came from the old front porch on my home that was removed like last year, the year before. And we have two of those pillars, and we just thought this would be such an incredible application. I cannot tell you how many birds just have incredible bubble baths in here. no bubbles really, but they just love, especially the big birds. That we have lots of thrashers here, and this is their absolute favorite. And they don't seem to mind mixing and mingling, because we had yesterday goldfinches and robins and thrashers all in the water at the very same time. So one of the things that I learned when we were shooting Vegetables Love Flowers, my book from a couple years ago, Bob Scammerhorn, who is the photographer, is actually a wildlife photographer. And we learned so much about birds. And one of the things he shared with us is in the spring and summer, there are so many migrating birds that you'll get drop-in visitors. And yesterday, y'all, we had a bird, and I grew up kind of around birds. Our parents always had a bird book, and we were aware of birds. By no means am I an expert. However, yesterday we had a bird in here that I've noticed from inside, and I at first thought it was a parakeet. His whole head was yellow, but he was more like the size of a robin. And so I could not get my camera out in time to take a picture so I could perhaps try to identify him. But friends, it was so amazing. I can only think perhaps that he was part of a migration, right? Moving, whether he was going north or south. Water is the #1 thing you can add to your garden, particularly the shade garden, to attract birds. We no longer stock bird feeders because of rodent problems, and we don't do bird houses anymore because of the sparrows raiding and killing babies, right? So we have found that providing water on multiple levels has created such an amazing show. So back to the Hellebores, which were the start of this, right? So I removed some of the Hellebores that had reseeded and moved out of the garden, trying to reestablish the pathways here in my garden so that our golf cart can move through it. And just 1 or 2 other plants that grows in this garden that is an incredible, by the way, cash crop for flower farmers. This is Solomon seal. And while it gets this great little flower that they're like on their way out, it is the actual use of this foliage in flower arranging. This is another high value cut flower that just does really, really well. And just like Hellebores, this one doesn't reseed, but it spreads by runners. So you don't need to purchase a ton. You just need to get some and plant them in a shady, and this actually gets morning sun here. And so they do really, really well. And of course, to enjoy ferns, which I actually keep in large pots. We don't cut those, but they're a nice pop of texture during the summer, and I can move those pots to wherever I need them to here in the garden, depending on what we are actually doing. So my Hellebore garden is kind of coming around, and I did save a few of the hard goods. I actually unearthed some of these stained glass stepping stones that in fact my brother had made, and that's one of my students made that little brick version. So you know, the spring is not the best time to transplant perennials, but we had to do it, and it's turning out to be pretty okay. And this garden is just alive with birds and beautiful flowers, and we're getting ready to harvest some of these Hellebores in preparation for Mother's Day bouquets. So friends, I hope that this has given you some ideas for your shade garden and how you can add Hellebores for beauty, add water for the creatures, and it's just a really great, relaxing garden to have. Enjoy.